El Paso County 911.
My son was supposed to be home at 6 o'clock, and it's almost 7. He's only 11.
Okay. What's his name?
Gannon.
It's January 27, 2020, in Colorado Springs, Colorado. 36-year-old Letecia Stauch, who's married to husband Albert Stauch, is calling to report that her stepson, 11-year-old Ganon, has gone missing.
When was he last seen?
Maybe around like 3:30, maybe.
Has this ever happened before?
No. So we went to the neighbor's house. My daughter just went to Stingray Park, and he's not there.
And who was the last person to see him?
I guess me.
An 11-year-old boy is missing in this nice little community called Lorson Ranch. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of concern about where he could be.
Hey, can we come in?
Hours later, police arrive at the Stauchs' home to talk to Letecia, her daughter Harley, and Gannon's sister, Lena, while Albert, Gannon's biological father, is out of town for work.
He was supposed to be here at 6 o'clock because we were going to eat dinner, and his dad already told him he could play with his friend. And he didn't come back at 6, so we drive to the neighbor's house, and they're like, no, he's not here.
It didn't seem like there was enough urgency in her voice. It seemed like she was not scattering in terms of her thoughts about what's going on. My stepson is missing. It was more like she was trying to piece it together.
You have talked to all of his friends' parents?
My husband did. He's been on the phone with a bunch of them. He's in Oklahoma. He said he's talked to everyone that he knows of.
We had heard he went to a friend's house, but all of the community couldn't find him anywhere. At first, we had heard rumors that this boy could have been a runaway. The next morning, Albert arrives back home from a training session with the National Guard. He and Letecia meet with detectives at a coffee shop to gain some insight on where Ganon could have gone.
He told her he was going to play, which they do all the time. Maybe he's 10 minutes late, but nothing like this. Big deal here is he's a homebody. He would rather be at home playing his little Nintendo or, watching cartoons, so he's not one just to walk off.
We're talking about January in the Colorado Rockies. It's cold. In fact, there was a pretty heavy snowstorm that occurred in the days following Ganon's disappearance. The likelihood that an 11-year-old child, without substantial help from somebody outside the home, could survive during that period of time greatly diminished the chances that we were going to find him alive and return him to his family.
When was the last time he talked to his mom, his biological mother?
He talks to her, right? They talk almost, I'd say, 5 times a week. Not to add any confusion to it, but the mom's married to a guy that's got a lot of trouble with the law. That was one of my first instincts. It's worth putting down, but I don't know if it's anything legit.
There'd be so many tips coming into the sheriff's office. They had to have a separate line. So many people thought they had seen him but turned out not to have seen him. This boy's disappearance was gaining not only statewide attention but quickly worldwide, nationwide, online, and on social media. And there was just so much mystery, so much curiosity, and so much concern. Then, the day after Ganon disappeared, Letecia told an investigator she had something to share.
So initially you didn't tell me some things because Albert was there.
And Letecia, saying she wasn't able to speak freely while Al was around, comes into the police station to talk once more. But this time, she says she wants to tell officials what really happened.
Take me through Sunday into Monday, and be as detailed as possible.
Sunday, Gannon had started a candle. The fire thing went off. It started saying fire, 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 fire. So then I see smoke coming up from the downstairs. So then I ran back downstairs to get Gannon.
There's this story that kept being brought up about a candle. What we heard was that he was maybe playing with his Nintendo Switch by a candle, and maybe he shouldn't have been on his Switch, and that his stepmother came downstairs, and he got scared and knocked this candle over.
The fire was on the floor over here, then on the sofa. There was covers everywhere. I take a whole bunch of them, and I go and basically smash down on the sofa and the fire to put it out. Honestly, we were going to fix the carpet and try to not say anything. Albert freaks out about every little thing. So that's where Sunday kind of stopped and everybody went to bed.
But as Letecia gets to the day of Ganon's disappearance, Her story couldn't be more different than what she originally told the police, as now she says someone else was involved.
And I know there's 2 things I gotta fix. Number 1, I need to fix the carpet, and number 2, I need to figure out, does Ganon need to go get like some burn cream or whatever. Lorson Ranch is a bunch of new builds, like construction. So I pulled up and I was like, hey, do you know where you can get the carpet that is in the Lorson Ranch model home? So we got the carpet from the guy in the construction area. Well, I didn't get it then. He said he was going to bring it to me. So I gave him the address, and this is where I messed up. I gave him our code to get in because he was going to go fix it. And me and Gannon left. We went some places around town.
Initially, we had heard he had left to go to a friend's house and didn't come back. Then, after days and no one finding any trace of that ever happening, there were new stories that someone came into the house.
We started to head home. As we got inside, I heard something. And I just started walking downstairs, opened the storage closet, and he was standing in there, and he had on gloves. He had one of the guns. Okay. And I was terrified. Okay. So terrified. And then he just knocked me down, and he was hitting on me, and he was trying to like rape me. It's all my fault, because I gave him our code to fix the carpet. Okay. And I shouldn't have.
This is where we hear the story of her being attacked. That someone broke into the home, attacked her, attacked Ganon, and then took Ganon. And here's another layer to a different story that she's now providing investigators.
I swear to God, I don't know what happened from there. I really don't know. I kind of like blacked out just a little bit.
Investigators begin looking into what Letecia's telling them. But in order to do that, they need to examine Letecia herself for evidence, something that appears to get her agitated.
We had talked earlier about whether or not it would be able to take action at this point as far as like gathering evidence, whether it had been too long, and I told you that it wasn't.
Right.
Is that something that you're willing to do?
Yes, definitely. I would do anything for you to figure out who Eduardo is.
We'd like to get you over to the hospital for that.
No, I would totally do that, but I really am. I just want to get some food and take a minute, and I can drive myself to the hospital.
The investigators start to see that something doesn't quite fit here. Something was off.
Okay, you said I was free to go.
Are you wanting to leave right now?
I'm really hungry. I'm thirsty. Look at my lips. They're chapped.
Can you give me just a few minutes?
She said that I would be able to go.
And I'm not saying that you can't. I'm asking if you can give me a few minutes. That's all.
I can. If you can, you just call me, or I have to maintain my mental health in this whole situation.
Investigators need to work quickly to find Ganon, but now they aren't sure what to believe. Coming up, the search for Gannon Stauch intensifies.
Ganon comes in to like jump on him. Ganon was aware that someone was trying to harm me. That was when he had the gun to Ganon. Everything from then was a blur.
The whole community came out in full force. We're just trying to find any clues as to where this boy is. If he's okay, if he's in our state, if he's in the country, if he's alive. It's January 2020. 11-year-old Gannon Stauch has been reported missing from his El Paso County, Colorado, home. Ganon's stepmother, Letecia Stauch, initially reported that the boy went to play at a friend's house and never came home for dinner. But a day later, she meets with investigators and changes the story, saying he had actually been kidnapped and that she had been sexually assaulted by a construction worker from a new home being built nearby.
Then when I get downstairs, he has the gun, and he has Ganon, and then he was like on top of me again, and then I kind of lied out again because he just hit my head.
But towards the end of the interview, Letecia starts getting combative when being asked to submit for a sexual assault examination.
It would be better to get the forensic exam
I'm not
done
going over there like
before you
not
take a shower.
Not like cleaned. I'm not doing that. That's disgusting. I'm not doing that. But I will gladly go.
But you realize that's how we gather evidence, right? So if you go take a shower right now, and I understand that you're like uncomfortable, I would like to get you over to the hospital to get the exam done.
Okay, well, then I'm driving myself there.
She was transported to the hospital so that a sexual assault examination could be conducted. But the hospital refuses to undergo that sexual assault examination. She's really trying to set up this idea, and yet she's not willing to give up any evidence that would help us find that person.
Sit down on the couch.
Sir, I can't breathe. I'm just asking you to open the door.
She portrays undergoing a very severe anxiety attack to try to get out of the interview.
Now we're going to have to call you an ambulance because you said you got chest pain.
I just told you I have chest pains. It's claustrophobic.
Okay,
I couldn't breathe.
so we're going to call you an ambulance. Yeah, well, you weren't claustrophobic until...
Excuse me. I take lorazepam every day, and if I don't take it, I could have a panic attack.
That requires them to bring in paramedics, and they find that she's perfectly normal. She knows that the investigation is starting to zero in on her. Letecia has now told authorities multiple versions of what happened to Ganon, and rumors about what occurred are circling the neighborhood. Letecia agrees to speak with a local reporter, saying she wants to clear everything up. But it seems it only complicates things further.
What did you see when you last saw him?
Well, I'm not allowed to talk about anything with the case. I would more so be willing to talk about how the community needs to have faith and continue to work together and not make these false accusations, like the things that have been said that I've disappeared from the community. I haven't been there to help.
There were just some weird things that kind of stood out based on her demeanor and all of that. You're speaking with someone who is in the center of the most heartbreaking situation you could imagine and might have known some answers but couldn't tell the public to try to help.
I took care of Gannon for the last 2 years in our home because his mother didn't want to do it. And I would never, ever hurt this child. They have all these theories on how Gannon is dead. He is not dead. We are going to find Gannon. And that's the main goal that we all have, my family has.
She would always say that she really loved Ganon and that Ganon was the favorite stepchild of hers. But it's very clear from the way that she would treat the kids that, in fact, he was the least favorite child in the house. Ganon was, by all accounts, a mama's boy. And that caused Letecia to be jealous of the relationship that Ganon had with his biological. Detectives still aren't totally clear on what happened the day Ganon disappeared. Yet they suspect Letecia might know more than she's letting on. At this point, even Stauch, Letecia's husband and Ganon's biological father, tries to get answers out of Letecia.
I'm trying to do what I can outside of the law enforcement because you don't freaking trust them anyways.
Do you trust them?
Not based on what I've seen. So that's why I'm going straight to the last person that saw him.
If I would be the last person that saw him, then I would be the person that has him.
Al expresses concerns that Letecia is holding back information, so he agrees to allow investigators to record their phone calls.
If you know it's an accident, are you going to stand by me?
Yes, absolutely, Letecia.
I'm sorry for all the stories. I just didn't know what to do. So we were going to get your look at him to get your bike. I was letting get it right. It was really big, so the guy was helping. And he fell off of it and he got hurt bad.
She comes up with a story about looking for a bike to buy for Al and how she and Ganon had gone up there to look at the bike. She describes in very elaborate detail how Ganon tested riding the bike, crashing, and hitting his head.
He was bleeding.
Where was he bleeding from?
His arms, his knees, his hands.
There was a piece of wood with blood on it found in a remote area, way away from the house. That was a huge part of the case. When we found the board up in southern Douglas County, she had to explain why Ganon's DNA would be found on that board. And what we learned throughout those phone calls is, 1. The level of lying that she was willing to undergo to deflect the investigation away from being pointed at her. But she was also giving us little clues throughout, where she would actually include small snippets of truth. But she would do it in a way that would explain away why that truth existed and why somebody else was responsible for that truth.
I didn't have a phone to call 911. They're supposed to be taking him back and call 911.
So the guy took him to take him to 911? The Craigslist guy? Quincy Brown or whatever.
I swear to God, Quincy's real.
What I'm trying to work out with you here is just the freaking truth.
That's what I'm telling you. He hurt Gannon. I was tied.
Okay, well, who is he? Who tied you up? Who did this? You didn't do it. Who did it? Who hurt Ganon? Who has Ganon?
Howard, they're gonna kill me.
Who is they? These are the questions I need to know.
They first told me his name was Eduardo, but it's not. It's Quincy Brown.
There was really no connection, though. Al got the same stories. And there was never really a full context for these stories.
So Quincy Brown is the one who has him.
He's coming after me because I know who he is.
Quincy Brown is the one holding Gannon for all the money? And you didn't tell me. So 3 weeks now, you've known who has my son.
The dynamics between her and Al were, I think, at the very heart of what this case was about. Prior to Gannon going missing, the relationship between her and Al was deteriorating rapidly. In those phone calls, she's constantly talking about and trying to talk Al into supporting her through this entire thing. She felt like Gannon was the key to drawing Allie closer to her and keeping that relationship going.
Did you talk to an attorney and file for divorce?
I have not filed anything yet. I'll give you the straight up honest truth. We're at the same point now. Unfortunately, 3 weeks later, I was not getting the whole truth. Even yesterday when we were talking, wasn't adding up, and it still isn't. There's 3 or 4 different versions.
Neither Al nor the investigators are fully believing Letecia's accounts of what happened to Gannon. But coming up next, new information comes to light that may be the key to solving this whole case. Found the video, and that is what we believe was his last sighting.
You know where an 11-year-old is, and I am here telling you we could go find him, and you are not giving us his location. Alive or dead.
I did not hurt my child, okay?
It's mid-February 2020, and officials in Colorado have been searching for weeks for a young boy, 11-year-old Gannon Stauch. While initially reported to police by Gannon's stepmother, Letecia Stauch, she's been providing several versions of what happened, and they don't seem to be adding up. At one point, when speaking to Al, Gannon's biological father, who's working with authorities, Letecia brings up another possible player in the case.
Someone was following us. There was this pregnant lady. So I agreed to help the pregnant lady. And I realized she's not pregnant once she gets in the car. I just was supposed to walk in Petco, look around, be normal, go drop this lady off somewhere.
She told you to walk into Petco?
She forced me. It's just being caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time with people who are money laundering, wanting me to deliver paper to these Mexican restaurants, and you're supposed to get packages back from them. And I wouldn't do it.
You want me to believe you, but I feel like you're just telling me something to make me feel better about Gannon missing. Kind of like the Quincy Brown thing. I mean, now it's a pregnant lady with cash in her belly.
I'm innocent.
It took a lot of strength on Al's part to go through those recorded phone calls. He had to keep his cool and not let her know that the nose was tightening and that she was quickly becoming the focal point of the investigation.
What is wrong with you?
What's wrong is my son's missing and you keep lying to me, okay? That's what's wrong. Okay, fine. Give me my son back. Tell the truth. Give me my son back.
I don't have him.
Where's he at then?
You're ridiculous.
Who has him? You haven't answered not one of my questions. You're not doing nothing but lying to me and sending me in a different direction than what you know is the truth.
Found the video. I found him in the car with Letecia. He was lethargic early on the morning of the 27th. The way he walks out to the truck clearly shows that he is under the influence of some sort of drug. And one more thing points to Letecia Stauch. Evidence is found at Stauch's home, suggesting Gannon was possibly killed there. When Letecia calls 911, the police actually go out to the scene and walk through the house, and there's nothing immediately apparent that would suggest something bad had happened. It really goes to the idea that she did an extensive job of cleaning up the crime scene. And then, when we go into Gannon's bedroom, you can see very fine blood staining on the walls, so small that it was hard to see with the naked eye. The investigators find blood and DNA all over the home, and the most chilling part of where they find the blood in his bedroom is that it's underneath his mattress, underneath the carpet pad, and soaked into the concrete below. And that tells you how much blood came from this young child. Through the blood, through the forensics, and through the ability to track her movements in the time frame of when Gannon was supposedly lost, they are all able to piece together that she had a lot more in connection to this case than she initially told law enforcement.
Do you know why you're here? Did they inform you why you're under arrest?
I'm under arrest?
Yes.
For what?
Just over a month after Letecia reported Gannon missing, she was arrested while visiting family in South Carolina.
I'm getting charged with what now?
We found enough, we call it probable cause,
Okay.
for a warrant to be issued.
Okay, warrant for what then?
It was for the murder.
What
of
murder?
Gannon Stauch.
So Gannon is murdered.
That's what the evidence shows.
Okay.
She's been interviewed yet again, this time by the FBI.
There's a lot of stories out there. So if someone truly took Ganon, though, we need to know the real story because you put out quite a few different stories.
The FBI agent tells her, "We heard you telling multiple stories on the phone with Al." And she says, "Oh, I knew you guys were already recording." She says she was hurt. He wasn't trying to work with her, so she purposely gave him multiple different stories.
I don't think you intended to hurt Ganon at all. Something bad happened in his room.
No.
If you didn't do it, and it helps me find Ganon,
I didn't do it.
okay, well then help me find out who did.
Who did what?
That to Ganon in his
Done
room.
what to Ganon in his room?
There's a pool of blood in the corner.
Okay.
That's Ganon's blood.
Where do you think that I had any involvement with Ganon, and where did he go?
You're the last adult with him. You told a lot of lies.
He would lead her down a path, and right at the point where she's going to make a statement that would potentially incriminate herself, she's conscious enough to know that this is occurring, and then she would then pull back.
If you can point me to a different person, then I can help you. If you trusted me to talk to me, you would tell me where Ganon is right now.
I don't know where Ganon is.
You do. If you would have told police the very first night that he was taken forcibly, everything would have been different.
The agent then confronts Letecia about something that raised red flags earlier in the investigation.
Here I even have what you entered in your phone. The stuff that you've entered and deleted. Like blood is spurting from an arterial bleed, direct pressure not controlling.
Do what? I didn't look this up.
Somebody did from your phone. I don't like my stepson.
No.
I don't like my stepson. Should I get a divorce? How to get blood out of sheets.
Out of sheets?
Mm-hmm.
Her Google searches were massive in this case. How long does it take a body to decompose, undergo face transplants, or find people who want to go to jail?
If you did something bad to Ganon, could you ever admit it?
What? I didn't do anything bad to Ganon.
Right now, you're the last person with Ganon.
I don't do bad things to people. I don't.
I don't think you do bad things to people.
I don't do bad things to anyone, and I didn't do anything bad to Ganon. Why would I hurt our child? I had everything in the world. Why? I have no motive. None.
But investigators come across a recording from the night when Stauch says Ganon accidentally caused a fire from a candle that sheds a chilling light on their relationship.
Ganon, I promise this is the last time I'm going to ask you. I'm just freaked out, okay? Are you sure you didn't do it on purpose?
I did it.
Okay, you promise. You promise.
On purpose.
Pinky promise.
Pinky.
There was one video where she was manipulating him on that Sunday night.
We're going to have to sell stuff to fix it, okay? So we figure out what we got to sell. We can sell the sofa. We can sell whatever, because we got to get it fixed, old lady. Don't be mad at us and kick us out of the house, okay? You got it? You got it?
I'm just worried about my
Okay, shh, listen.
You hear this little boy's voice and the fear in his voice, and she recorded him. You hear that recording, and it's this little boy. I promised I didn't mean to do it, and just now his voice is shaking, and he's crying. While authorities may know who's responsible for Ganon's disappearance, there's still one major missing piece. Ganon is still nowhere to be found. That's when a case-changing discovery is made hundreds of miles away. Investigators discover Letecia rented a van and drove 1,300 miles to Florida with her daughter just days after Ganon's disappearance. Authorities believe Letecia tossed this suitcase with Ganon dead inside over a bridge in the middle of the night while her daughter Harley slept in a nearby hotel room. Ganon's body was just discarded as if it were trash. He suffered from not only stab wounds but also a gunshot injury. The bullet that was recovered from Ganon was able to be connected to a gun that was found in Letecia's bedroom. The handgun that was used actually belonged to Al Stauch. What was really eerie about the way that it was found was that, as it was sitting on the dresser, it was actually pointing at a photograph of Ganon. It looks like he was trying to defend himself and fighting back, but it was a brutal attack. He was stabbed 17 times. He was hit over the head 4 times, and then the final injury that he sustained was a gunshot wound to his jaw. He was also given hydrocodone, so he was poisoned with the drug. It is the wrong drug. It really speaks to the horrific hours of Ganon's last hours here on Earth alive. Letecia is accused of the murder of 11-year-old Gannon Stauch, but the twist in this story isn't quite over yet when we return a roadblock in the case. She felt like she could manipulate the court system. She was trying to feign incompetence.
I'm not a monster, okay? I'm not a monster.
You asked me did I kill Ganon. That was
It hurt me to ask it because you're my wife.
I'm begging you.
Here's-
I want to help, but I can't get in trouble for it.
Okay,
Because
and that-
I didn't do it. And I'm not a criminal. I don't kill people.
It's March 2020, and investigators have Letecia Stauch in custody in South Carolina. They believe she stabbed and shot her 11-year-old stepson Ganon to death 2 months earlier, in January, out in Colorado. Letecia and the authorities arrived back in Colorado, where she was set to stand trial. However, now there's even more delay. There is always something on her end to delay. There were letters to the judge wanting to represent herself, changing her plea. She went through at least 2 competency hearings and even a third closer to that trial date. Competency is a person's ability to participate in their defense and to be tried. After more than 3 years, in April 2023, Letecia Stauch goes on trial for first-degree murder, tampering with the deceased human body, and tampering with evidence. Evidence. For Stauch's defense, she entered a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity.
January 27, 2020, Gannon's home turned into the stuff of nightmares. The one place a little boy like Gannon should have felt the safest is in fact where he was brutally murdered. Evidence in this case will show that she could distinguish between right and wrong.
There was an overwhelming amount of evidence, the timelines, the locations of the GPS, even the recordings. It did come up during the trial that Letecia may suffer from having multiple personalities. And from an insanity defense standpoint, if your client has any kind of mental disease or defect, you throw that all against the wall and see what sticks.
It was an awful, awful thing that was done to Gannon. In the court of public opinion and the media, he's guilty. This is going to come down to insanity.
The issue for that, both for the defense and ultimately for the jury in making the decision, is whether or not she had that multiple personality disorder. The Stauch was dealing with the trauma and abuse that had been going on since she was a toddler. The troubled childhood, that's where the fragmentation personality comes in. The most important thing is Letecia's attitude in the courtroom. All eyes were on her. When they're giving the defense's opening statements, that's the only time I see any reaction, and it was her putting a tissue on her face when they were talking about the alleged abuse she went through as a child, nothing about Ganon.
It's insane. Go from teacher, loving stepmother, loving mother, being a killer of an 11-year-old boy. There was some major psychotic crack.
Much of the state's case focused on just that, letting each person's mental state at the time of the crime even call her daughter to the stand.
Had you ever seen your mom change personalities into someone she isn't?
No.
Had she ever been treated for any mental illness in your lifetime?
No.
If there was one person who knew the defendant best, it was Harley Hunt, her own daughter. And having her come in and talk to the jury and the manipulation that she suffered at the defendant's hands went a long way towards showing that she was of a very sound mind and that she knew exactly what she had done.
Did you ever ask your mom, what are we doing? Why are we leaving?
No, I didn't really question her a lot. I would be told that I'm being disrespectful or talking back.
And what would happen if you were being disrespectful or talking back to your mom?
Sometimes she would backhand me.
The conscious decision to drive Ganon's body all the way down to Florida. How many times Letecia must have been able to think through her actions and maybe have the opportunity to change course, but she didn't?
I'm still in shock. I defended her for years, and I just feel manipulated and lied to.
You could see how hurt the family was that this was even an argument brought up that she was insane. They knew her for years and years, and she was totally fine. They trusted her to take care of their kids, and now it's just a switched argument. Oh, she's insane.
Did Miss Stauch ever give you any self-diagnosis of potential mental illnesses that she felt she had?
She talked a lot about being manic, slipping in and out of reality.
Did she ever bring up anything about having another personality or multiple personalities?
She did not.
She was reading books and was picking up things that she could do or say that would support an insanity defense, and she did those things during different evaluations. She was clearly trying to manipulate that process.
Did you or Dr. Gray ever consider the fact that she could just be making this all up?
Yes.
And then comes Maria, a different personality from Letecia's.
She talks about going into protection mode, and she often references Maria as the protector.
Someone who has dissociative identity disorder, are they going to be able to recall what happens as a different person?
I would think that if Ms. Stauch had dissociated into Maria, there would be a lack of awareness or understanding or memory.
The biggest hurdle, I think, was really the gravity of the injuries that Gannon suffered. It gave us some concerns that it wouldn't be too much of a stretch for a juror to say the only reason that somebody would carry out an attack on an 11-year-old like that is if they were crazy, that they had gone insane. That's exactly what the defense argued. Not that Letecia didn't commit the killing, but that she was insane at the time and not criminally responsible.
When I was interviewing her over a period of time, suddenly it seemed to me that she was speaking Russian.
Someone was in the home, we don't understand. Someone was in the home.
It looked as though she had switched into a different entity.
Did she describe any alters to you or other personas?
She referred to somebody named Maria. Maria apparently was a physically abusive entity. And when I first saw that, I thought, have I just met the aspect of her personality that killed Ganon?
You don't understand. I had to protect the people that were in the house, okay? Because if someone was in the home, they were going to rape someone, they were going to molest them, they were going to kill them. I had to protect them. That's all I did, okay? And I fired the gun. I did not know, didn't have a safety. I'm trained to kill them. That's what I do, kill for a living. I took the gun, I fired the gun at someone. They had a cape on, they looked like a dangerous man. Killed the man. Did what I was supposed to do, which I killed the girl.
The case is then delivered to the jury, as Letecia's future is placed in their hands to decide. When you turn a case over to a jury for deliberations, you sit there and you think about, well, could we have done this differently? Did the jury pick up on the things that were important for the case, or did they miss something? Were they paying attention? You just never know until you get that verdict. After nearly 8 hours of deliberations, the jury comes back with their decision.
We, the jury, find the defendant Letecia Stauch guilty.
The jury found that Letecia Stauch was guilty of all crimes straight across the board. It was not surprising to me after all of those lies and all those calculations and miscalculations that the jury thought you weren't insane. You knew what you were doing. And this is murder in the worst possible way.
You have shown no remorse throughout this process. Instead, you've made a choice to build a web of lies because you didn't want to face the consequences. Your conduct in this case deserves the maximum punishment. I remand you to the custody of the Colorado Department of Corrections for the remainder of your life with no possibility of parole.
The idea that a little boy could suffer this sort of horrific attack at the hands of somebody who was supposed to be caring for them is unimaginable. It's something that will always be on my mind. But most importantly, I'll never forget the smile that Ganon had, the stories of how happy he was and how much of a fighter he was, and just the love that he had for his family. Thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed the content, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified about our latest updates. Stay tuned for more gripping stories from the world of crime. Until next time, stay safe and take care.